Tom stood near the large window of Orbital Station 9, holding a steaming cup of tea. From here, Earth looked like a glowing blue marble, spinning silently in the dark. He took a sip and sighed. Life in space was quiet, too quiet sometimes. Tom was just a maintenance worker. He didn't fly ships or lead missions. He fixed air filters, cleaned up messes, and made sure toilets flushed properly in zero gravity. It wasn't exciting, but it was safe, and he liked that. Today had been like any other until a red alarm flashed over the control panels. Unscheduled docking incoming. The voice of the station AI echoed. Tom frowned. No one supposed to dock today. He floated over to the terminal and tapped the screen. A small vessel, shaped like a silver drop of water, was drifting closer. It wasn't one of Earth's ships. Is that alien? He muttered. Just a few months ago, Earth had joined the Intergalactic Alliance. There were welcome speeches, flags waved, and promises made. But after that, not much had changed. Some scientists talked to aliens over long-distance calls, but most people on Earth were still getting used to the idea that humans weren't alone in the universe. Tom had never met an alien before, and now one was docking at his station. Permission granted from Alliance High Council. The AI added. The doors hissed to open. Tom floated back as the airlock cycled. His heart thumped in his chest. From the midst of the airlock stepped a small figure. She was tiny, barely reaching his waist. With a delicate frame, her skin had a soft pearl tone, and her long silver hair floated behind her in the low gravity. Her eyes were large and dark violet, glowing faintly. She wore a simple white uniform with a golden crest. She floated toward him gracefully, landing softly on the floor with help from magnetic boots. Then, with a voice clear and calm, she said, "Congratulations. I'm your match partner." Tom blinked. "Wait, what?" The alien gave a small bow. "My name is Ziri. I am from the planet Velith. You have been selected for the Alliance Interspecies Partnership Program. As of now, we are bonded as match partners." Tom nearly dropped his tea. "You must be joking." Ziri tilted her head. "I do not understand." "I am not joking." Tom scratched his head. "Look, I'm just a maintenance guy. I'm not whatever this is. You've got the wrong person." Ziri's eyes narrowed slightly. "I confirm. Your station ID, work record, and human profile match exactly. The bonding decision was made by the Alliance Harmony algorithm. It does not make mistakes." Tom stepped back and waved his hands. No, I didn't sign up for any of this. I didn't even know this program existed." She pulled out a small device and tapped it. A screen appeared in the air, showing a photo of Tom, a bio summary, and a big green stamp, match approved. "This is real?" he asked, eyes wide as Ziri nodded. "Yes, the program is part of Earth's agreement with the Alliance. Random citizens may be selected to participate in bonding missions. The goal is peaceful exchange. You and I will live and work together for 6 months." Tom dropped into a chair, stunned. 6 months, together. She sat too, hands folded neatly in her lap. "Yes, it will be interesting." Tom stared at her. "You don't even know me." "I will," she replied simply. He let out a long sigh. "Why would they match you with me of all people? I fix broken wires and clean filters." Ziri smiled slightly. "That may be why. The Alliance values peaceful, ordinary humans, soldiers, and scientists are important, but understanding comes from real, daily life." Tom rubbed his face. This was too much. 1 minute he was sipping tea, the next he was being told he had a tiny alien roommate for half a year. "So, what happens now?" he asked. Ziri opened a small case. Inside were two silver pins. She handed one to Tom. "This is the bonding crest. It shows we are part of the program. We must wear them at all times." He held the pin carefully. It looked like a tiny spiral galaxy, shining in the light. Tom slowly nodded. "Okay, fine. I guess I don't have much choice." Ziri tilted her head again. "Thank you. Your acceptance is noted. I look forward to learning from you." She stood, floated to the middle of the room, and looked out at Earth through the window. "It is beautiful." she said softly. Tom followed her gaze. Yeah, it is. They stood in silence for a moment, to strangers from two worlds, both unsure what would come next. Then Ziri spoke again. Tomorrow, we travel to our assigned location, a joint outpost on Phobos. We will co-manage it. Tom groaned. Great. Mars' creepy little moon. Ziri didn't understand the joke, but she smiled anyway. This will be a good journey, she said. Tom wasn't so sure, but something in her calm voice made him believe just a little that maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't be so bad. Maybe this was the start of something strange, but important. He looked at her again. Tiny alien woman. Glowing eyes, official badge. Ready for duty. This was real. All right, partner, he said with a weak grin. Let's see what 6 months brings. Tom stood by the storage bay, watching a robotic arm lift their supply crates into the shuttle. The ship was small but fast, built for short-distance space travel. He had never been to Phobos, one of Mars' tiny moons. The thought of spending 6 months there with an alien stranger made his stomach turn. Ziri stood beside him, perfectly calm. Her silver uniform was freshly clean, her small hands folded neatly. She had already memorized the shuttle's flight path and Phobos temperature readings. You're really prepared, huh? Tom asked, adjusting his utility belt. It is required. I studied all available data about your moon, your habits, and the layout of the outpost. Ziri replied. He looked at her, impressed but also slightly annoyed. You didn't study me, did you? She blinked. Only your public profile. You prefer black tea. You watch old Earth films. You have a 92% work punctuality rate. Tom raised an eyebrow. That's creepy. Ziri tilted her head. Is it not polite to learn about one's match? Tom sighed and rubbed his forehead. I was hoping you'd say you like surprises. I prefer facts, she answered. The shuttle beeped, signaling ready for departure. They both climbed in. Ziri took the left seat and began tapping the controls with quick, practiced movements. You know how to fly this thing? Tom asked, buckling in. Yes. I completed Alliance shuttle training 6 years ago. Tom leaned back. Guess I'll just enjoy the ride. As they pulled away from Orbital Station 9, Earth shrank behind them. Ziri guided the ship with smooth precision. No sudden turns. No shaky moves. She flew like someone who trusted machines more than people. After a few minutes of silence, Tom spoke again. So, this whole match partner program, how many other humans are in it? Ziri answered without looking away from the controls. Only 12 humans were selected in this cycle. The Harmony algorithm pairs species that have high potential for understanding and cooperation. Tom frowned. And if we don't get along? Ziri turned to face him. Then the Harmony score drops. Earth may be disqualified from certain Alliance benefits. Your species is under evaluation. Great, Tom muttered. No pressure. The pressure is equal for me, she said. Velith is a lesser-known planet. Our role in the Alliance is not yet secure. I volunteered for this mission to bring honor to my people. Tom glanced at her. So we're both guinea pigs. Ziri blinked. I did not understand that word. Test subjects, he said with a chuckle. Used in experiments. Ziri nodded. Then yes, we are guinea pigs. They shared a rare smile. A few hours later, the ship slowed as Phobos came into view. It looked like a gray potato floating in the dark. The outpost was a small dome-shaped structure nestled near a ridge. Solar panels stretched beside it like thin wings. Ziri landed the ship with care. The docking clamps engaged with a soft thud. Welcome to Outpost 7, she said. They stepped out into the docking chamber. Gravity here was weak, so they wore boots with magnetic soles. The inside of the outpost was clean, but small just for rooms, control center, lab, shared living space, and sleeping quarters. Tom looked around. Guess this is home now. Ziri nodded. Our schedule begins tomorrow. Duties are divided equally. You handle maintenance, external systems, and human communications. I manage data, science logs, and Alliance reports. He scratched his head. And what about cooking? Ziri pointed to a food module. Pre-programmed meals, nutrient balance for both species. Tom peeked at the options and frowned. No. Real food, just packets. It is efficient, she said. Efficient, but depressing, he muttered. They walked into the sleeping area. There were 2 beds on opposite sides of the room. Simple, clean, and boring. Tom dropped his bag on one and flopped down. So, no privacy? There's a divider if needed, Ziri replied, pressing a button on the wall. A thin barrier slid between the beds. Tom sat up. Look, I know we're partners, but this is weird. We're completely different. You follow every rule, and I just fix broken toilets. Ziri folded her arms. I'm not here to judge your job. I am here to understand your species. Well, understanding me means accepting that I sometimes sleep late, eat snacks at midnight, and forget to log reports. Ziri paused, noted. Tom laughed softly. You're not writing that down, are you? She pulled out her device. Should I not? No, he said quickly. Let's just try to live like normal people, okay? Ziri looked thoughtful. Very well. I will observe and adjust. They ate their first meal in silence. Chewy protein squares and vitamin broth. Not exactly a feast. Later that night, Tom stared at the low ceiling above his bed. Ziri? He said softly. Yes? Why did you really volunteer? Was it just for your planet? She hesitated for a moment. Then, in a softer voice, she said, I wanted to see what other species are truly like. I read many reports about humans, how emotional you are, how unpredictable. I wanted to see it for myself. Tom smiled in the dark. Well, you got that part right. Ziri didn't reply, but he heard her breathing slow and steady. He closed his eyes, thinking about how strange this all was. Living on a rocky moon with a tiny alien woman who spoke like a computer. And yet, something about her made him feel curious, like this wouldn't just be a test. Maybe it was a beginning. Outside, Mars glowed red and silent. 2 lives from 2 worlds had been brought together by machine's decision. But what happened next would be up to them. The sun was rising slowly over the dusty surface of Phobos. But Tom didn't notice it. He was lying under a panel in the outpost's main hallway, holding a spanner in one hand and a wire clamp in the other. Ziri, I told you this power relay was acting weird yesterday, he muttered, his voice muffled by the small space dot from nearby. Ziri replied calmly. The diagnostics showed no failure, but I trust your observation. Tom tightened the last bolt, then slid out from under the panel and wiped his forehead. Well, the diagnostics missed this melted circuit. It nearly fried the whole energy loop. If that had gone, we'd be sitting here with no lights, no oxygen, and no coffee. Ziri stood over him, holding her small data tablet. I will update the system report to reflect this flaw. Your fast repair is noted. Tom sat up and stretched his arms. You don't always have to talk like a report. You? No, she blinked. How else should I speak? Like a person, he said with a tired grin. She tilted her head. I am a person. He laughed softly. Okay, fair enough. They were 3 weeks into the bonding assignment now. Life on Phobos was starting to settle into a routine. Every morning, Tom checked the station's systems and did small repairs. Ziri reviewed reports, sent daily logs to the Alliance, and ran science experiments. They ate together, worked together, and sometimes even joked, though Ziri's sense of humor was still under construction. But today, something was off. The comms panel in the control room kept blinking red. Ziri, the long-range comms are cutting out again, Tom said, tapping the screen. That's the 3rd time this week. Ziri frowned slightly and walked over. This is unusual. The solar ray is functioning. No storms recorded on the Martian surface. Tom scratched his chin. Could be interference. Let me check the external antenna. Within an hour, he was outside in a sealed suit, floating slightly as he walked across the low-gravity surface of Phobos. The antenna stood like a metal flower, pointing toward the stars. He inspected the base carefully. Looks fine, he muttered. But then, something caught his eye. Just beyond a ridge, half buried in the dust, was a dark, rounded shape. He moved closer. It was a small, black pod about the size of a backpack. Unlike anything Earth or the Alliance had ever used, strange markings covered its smooth surface, and a faint blue light blinked underneath. "Ziri, I think I found something," he said through the comm. Her voice came through with a slight delay. "Describe it." He knelt near the pod. "It's not ours. Definitely not Alliance tech either. Looks like a probe. Hidden here." There was a pause. "Return to the outpost. Do not touch it." "But that is an order." Tom stared at the pod. It wasn't doing anything, just sitting there. Still, he knew better than to argue with her when her voice sounded like that. Back inside, Ziri was already scanning satellite records and pulling up Alliance ship logs. "It's a spy probe," she said. "Not registered. It's from a non-member. Species, possibly hostile." Tom's face turned serious. "Are you saying someone's spying on Earth from Phobos?" Ziri nodded slowly. "Yes. And hiding the probe here means they know we wouldn't notice easily. They've been watching." Tom sat down, letting the thought sink in. "What do we do?" he asked. Ziri tapped her screen. "Protocol says we report it immediately to the Alliance. But the long-range comms are down." She looked up. "Exactly. It may not be random failure. The probe could be causing interference." Tom leaned forward. "So we're stuck here. Can't call for help. And we've got a possible enemy watching from who knows where." "Yes." For a moment, neither of them said anything. Then Tom stood up. "Okay, what if we try to get information from the probe? Maybe we can find out who sent it. Give the Alliance something useful when the comms are back." Ziri looked unsure. "That's dangerous. It could have traps or a defense system." Tom gave her a small smile. "You just said I'm unpredictable, right?" Ziri sighed. "Yes, very." The next day, they went out together. Ziri wore a scanning device on her wrist while Tom carried a toolkit. The probe was still there, unmoved. Ziri scanned it carefully. No explosives. No active energy spikes. It appears to be in low power mode. Tom knelt beside it. "Then let's wake it up gently, using a signal bypass tool." He opened a small panel on the side. Inside were glowing circuits and a pulsing crystal. "This tech isn't like anything I've seen," he whispered. "Ziri, lean closer. It's using quantum tagging. They're tracking movements of ships." "You mean Earth ships?" "Yes, and Alliance ones, too." Tom looked up, his expression tense. "They're watching everyone. They work for hours, pulling out data logs and recordings." Ziri translated most of it. The language was rough, but they could make out enough. "Enemy fleet movements, weak spots in Earth's defenses, even Alliance blind zones. This isn't just spying," Ziri said. "They're preparing something." Tom's face was pale. "An attack?" She nodded. "Possibly." They quickly packed up the probe, locked it inside a shielded box, and carried it back inside the outpost. Ziri began decoding and encrypting the data for when the comms returned. Tom added new layers of security to every system in the base. For once, neither joked. Neither relaxed. That night, they sat side by side in silence, eating their usual dull meal. After a long pause, Tom said, "I thought this program was just a fake peace mission. But now, I get it. It's real." Ziri looked at him with soft eyes. "Yes, and now, we must prove that our partnership has value for both our species." He smiled weakly. "Then let's make sure we do." Outside, the red planet loomed. Somewhere beyond, danger was rising. But inside the small dome, two unlikely partners were preparing for whatever came next. The quiet hum of the outpost systems filled the air, but Tom and Ziri barely noticed. They sat in the control room, surrounded by open screens and blinking lights. The probe they had recovered was locked inside a shielded case nearby, and the data they pulled from it had changed everything. Ziri tapped her fingers on her datapad, her face unusually serious. "There's more in the files. I'm finding references to something called Phase 1. It's written in a mix of symbols and code numbers." Tom leaned over her shoulder. "What does that mean?" "I don't know yet," she replied. "But it's connected to Earth's satellite paths and military scans. Whatever it is, it's planned. It's not random spying." Tom stood and walked to the window. Outside, Phobos looked calm. But now it felt different, like a silent watcher in the middle of a trap. He crossed his arms. We need to get this info to someone higher up, like right now. I've already boosted the signal on our comms. Dish, Ziri said. But the interference hasn't stopped. The probe is still jamming it somehow, even in low power mode. Tom turned around. So we wait? Ziri shook her head. No, I'm going to send a short-range pulse signal to my people. It's risky, but faster. Tom frowned. What kind of signal? Ziri hesitated. A diplomatic emergency code. If the Velith Council receives it, they will send help. But Alliance rules say I should wait until communication is fully restored. Tom raised an eyebrow. But if you wait and we're attacked, Ziri interrupted softly. I've already made my decision. She stood and walked to the side console. Tom followed as she entered a sequence of numbers in her native script. A quiet beep sounded, and a small blue light blinked. There, she whispered. It's sent. Tom let out a breath. Let's hope they get it. But something strange happened. As soon as the signal left their station, the lights flickered. The control room screens flashed, and a warning alarm blared. Alert! External drone detected. Tom rushed to the camera feed. A black shape hovered just above the outpost, sleek, oval, and moving slowly. That's not one of ours, he said. Ziri narrowed her eyes. It's a scout, from the same species as the probe. They picked up the signal. The drone turned suddenly and fired a beam at the outpost comm dish. Sparks flew, and the feed cut out. They just knocked out our antenna, Tom shouted. Now we're totally cut off. Ziri looked at him, her calm voice firm. Then, we must prepare. They know we're onto them, and they won't stop now. For the next few hours, the two worked non-stop. Tom reinforced the outpost's external panels using metal plates from unused supply crates. Ziri rerouted power through emergency batteries and locked down every digital system. With encryption codes, Tom looked at the outpost's basic defense screen. We've got for motion sensors, a small energy shield, and a warning beacon. That's it. It will have to be enough, Ziri said. Yeah, Tom muttered. Because we're not getting backup anytime soon. Ziri walked to the storage room and returned with a small device in her hand. What's that? Tom asked. A field scrambler. It can block tracking signals for a short time. We use it in deep space scouting missions. Tom blinked. You had that this whole time? It was only to be used in emergencies, she replied. He chuckled. Ziri, this is what we call a huge emergency. She gave a small smile. I understand that now. They activated the scrambler, and the blinking light on the hidden probe went dark. Ziri checked the data again. We need to hide the probe. If they come looking for it, they must not find it. Tom nodded. I'll bury it near the ridge, under the rocky layers. Be careful, she said. I always am, Tom replied. Then he grinned. Okay? Not always, but I'll try. Outside, Tom wore his suit and carried the heavy probe in a sealed case. He walked carefully across the rough surface of Phobos, jumping slightly with each step due to the low gravity. He reached the ridge and found a perfect spot behind a large boulder. He dug with a compact shovel, placed the case inside, and covered it with dust and rocks. He placed a marker nearby, just in case they needed to retrieve it later. As he stood to leave, a strange noise made him freeze, a humming. He turned and saw the drone again hovering silently above the ground. Scanning the area. Tom ducked low, hiding behind a rock. Ziri, the drone's here. It's close. Her voice crackled through the suit comm. Don't move. Its sensors may not detect you if you stay still. The drone hovered longer, then turned slowly and drifted away. Tom waited a full minute before standing. That was too close. He whispered. Back inside, he told Ziri everything. It's hunting, she said. But now it's blind. For now, Tom sat down, tired. This is no longer a bonding mission. This is survival. Ziri didn't argue. Agreed. That night, the mood in the outpost was heavy. The lights were dimmed to minimum, and every sound felt louder in the silence. Tom sat at the table, staring at his half-eaten food. Ziri, he said finally, why do you really send that signal? You broke protocol. You could be recalled, or worse. She looked up at him. Because I believe in this partnership. And because I've grown to respect your world. And you. Tom was quiet for a moment. You're not like I expected. I thought you'd be cold and robotic. Just following rules. Ziri gave a small smile. And I thought you'd be loud, messy, and uncooperative. He raised his hand. Okay, fair enough. You weren't wrong. They both chuckled softly. Tom leaned back in his chair. Do you think help will come? Ziri looked out the window toward the stars. If the signal made it through. Yes, if not, then it's just us. Tom nodded. Then we better be ready, because I don't think that drone came alone. As they sat in the quiet room, the stars above seemed a little less peaceful. But their partnership, once awkward and strange, had begun to form something. Stronger, something that just might be enough. The silence in the outpost felt heavier than usual. Tom stared at the blinking red light on the communication panel, still dead. The last few days had been tense, with the drone's visits growing, more frequent and aggressive. Every beep of a sensor made Tom's heart race. Ziri stood nearby, her small frame calm but her violet eyes sharp and alert. We cannot wait any longer. She said softly, I must send a direct message to the Velith Council. It is beyond protocol, but necessary. Tom frowned. You mean you'll contact your people again? After what happened last time, Ziri nodded. Yes, this time, I will use a secure encrypted channel. It should be untraceable by the enemy. Tom bit his lip. All right, but be careful. If the Alliance finds out you broke the rules, you could be recalled, or worse. She gave a small smile. I understand the risk. Ziri moved to the console and began typing. Tom watched her fingers move quickly and confidently. The blue light on the panel blinked as the signal sent into space. Minutes later, the outpost shook slightly, a distant vibration that felt like a warning. Drone approaching, Ziri said quietly. Tom grabbed his toolkit. We've got to prepare. They moved fast, setting up makeshift defenses from spare parts and metal crates. Tom wired old mining charges to create traps. While Ziri calibrated energy barriers around the entrance, the drone appeared again. Sleek and silent, it circled the outpost, scanning, searching. Tom's finger hovered over a trigger. Here goes. Nothing. He pressed a button. A sudden burst of light and sound startled the drone, causing it to veer away. It fired a beam, but the energy barrier held. Ziri smiled. That bought us time. Tom nodded. Good enough. The next morning, a sharp beep interrupted the quiet. The communication panel flickered to life. Message incoming from Velith Council, Ziri announced. Tom held his breath as she opened the secure channel. A tall, regal figure appeared on the screen, a Velith elder with flowing robes and glowing markings. Ziri, your actions are bold but necessary, the elder said. Earth is important to us, and your message has reached us. Reinforcements are en route. Ziri bowed respectfully. Thank you, Honored One. We will hold the outpost. Tom let out a relieved sigh. Finally, help. But the elder's face grew serious. Be warned, the enemy is stronger than expected. You must not engage alone if possible. Ziri nodded. Understood. The message ended. Tom looked at her. You broke protocol to save us. She met his gaze. Sometimes rules must bend for survival. He smiled warmly. You're not just my partner. You're my friend. Ziri's eyes softened. And you are mine. Days passed slowly as they waited for help. The drone attacks continued. But Tom and Ziri worked well together, their trust growing. One afternoon, Tom showed Ziri an old Earth film on his tablet, a simple story about friendship and bravery. She watched quietly, then said, I understand more about humans now. You fight with heart. Tom laughed. Yeah, that's us. That night, as they prepared for another watch, Ziri looked at Tom. If this is what partnership means, she said softly, then I am proud to be matched with you. Tom smiled back. Me too. Outside, Phobos was silent again. But inside the outpost, a bond stronger than any protocol was forming, a bond between two worlds. The tension in the outpost was at its peak. For days, Tom and Ziri had prepared for something they hoped would never come, a direct attack. The spy probe data had shown that the hostile species was sending a scout ship to test Earth's defenses. And now, it was almost here. Tom stood at the control panel, eyes scanning every monitor. Ziri, the scout is less than an hour away. Ziri nodded, her violet eyes focused. We must act quickly and smartly. Our small defenses won't hold against a direct assault. Tom clenched his fists. So what do we do? Ziri tapped her datapad. We set traps, use our knowledge of the terrain and the technology available. We can't wait for help anymore. Tom looked at her, a mixture of respect and worry on his face. You sure about this? Absolutely, Ziri replied. Our survival depends on it, together. They moved swiftly. Tom gathered spare energy cells, old mining explosives, and sensor devices. Ziri coordinated the placement of energy shields and camouflage nets. The low gravity of Phobos helped them move quickly. But every minute felt heavy. As the sun dipped behind Mars, the dark horizon held a new shadow, a small scout ship. Approaching fast, Tom's heart pounded as alarms rang. Through the outpost, Ziri, it's here, he shouted. Ziri activated the emergency shields. Stay calm, Tom, follow my lead. The scout ship descended and hovered above the outpost. A hatch opened, and sleek drones began to fly out. Tom grabbed the control panel and triggered the traps. Explosions lit the dark surface, sending dust clouds into the thin atmosphere. The drones dodged some traps but fell victim to others. Tom and Ziri worked together, shutting down power to certain areas, then activating energy nets that caught the drones like spider webs. Ziri ran toward a console and started sending interference signals. If we disrupt their communication, they won't call for reinforcements. Tom nodded and took out his handheld pulse gun. It was old, but it worked. Drones closed in. Tom fired carefully, knocking out several. One drone headed toward Ziri. Without hesitation, Tom rushed forward and grabbed her, pulling her out of the drone's path. Thanks, she said breathlessly. No time to thank, he replied. We have to finish this. Ziri smiled briefly, then focused back on the controls. Suddenly, the scout ship's hatch closed. The remaining drones retreated. Tom and Ziri watched as the ship lifted off, disappearing into the stars. They both exhaled, relief flooding through them. That was close, Tom said. Ziri nodded. But we showed them that Earth and Velith can defend themselves. Tom looked at her, admiration shining in his eyes. You risked a lot to help this outpost. I'm glad you're here. Ziri smiled softly. And I'm honored to stand with you. They walked outside under the dim light of distant stars. Phobos was quiet again, but something had changed. Not just the outpost, but their partnership. Tom realized that Ziri was no longer just his assigned match. She was his friend, his ally, and maybe something more. The stars above Phobos shone quietly as Tom and Ziri stood side by side on the outpost's small observation deck. After the scout ship's retreat, the silence felt almost peaceful, but neither of them was ready to relax fully. The long months of living and working together had changed them both. What had started as an awkward mission was now something deeper, a true partnership. Ziri looked at Tom, her violet eyes reflecting the distant Earth below. The Alliance has officially recognized our success. Earth is now a full member planet. Tom smiled, feeling a rush of pride. We did it, she nodded. And the Velith Council has offered me a new post, to serve as Earth's official advisor. Tom's eyes widened. Wow, that's big. Ziri took a deep breath. It is, but there is one condition. Tom looked at her curiously. What's that? She smiled softly. I want to stay on Earth, with you, not as a partner by contract, but by choice. Tom blinked. For a moment, words failed him. The tiny alien woman who had seemed so formal and distant was now asking for something real, something personal. He took her hand gently in his. Ziri, I don't know what to say. So you'll let me try, she whispered. Tom laughed softly. I'd like that, a lot. They stood quietly, holding hands as the first rays of the Martian sun began to rise. Later, as they prepared to leave the outpost, Tom packed his bag. Ziri checked the systems one last time. This place will always be special, she said. Tom nodded. It's where everything changed as their shuttle lifted off. Earth grew larger and brighter before them. Tom looked out the window and smiled. He thought about how strange life had been, an ordinary man matched with a tiny alien woman, and how that match had turned into something extraordinary. Congratulations, partner, he said softly. Ziri grinned. Thank you. Now it really begins. Together, they faced the future, two worlds united by friendship, trust, and a bond no algorithm could predict.